Yep.
Just like
Okay. Which way?
That's perfect right there.
Okay.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all so much for being here in the appropriately named Mclhenny Ballroom. As you can all see, we have vastly exceeded the number of seats that were available in the Brennan Hall and in the Rose Room, which is our normal meeting point. But I think this is about double any group that we've ever had. This is an all-time record. I wonder why that could be. We have a very special guest today. This is fantastic. I'll say more about him in just a minute, and he'll say more about himself as we go on throughout our time together. As you may know, we are in the midst now of Jesuit Identity Week here on campus, and I know many of you have already had a chance to come to some events. For some of you, this is your first event of the week. You're most welcome. We have a number of events yet to come that you'll be most welcome for. Maybe just if I could highlight just a couple. Tomorrow, well, I should say tonight at 8 o'clock in Madonna della Strada Chapel, we'll have Taizé prayer. Beautiful music will be played, opportunity for silence and prayer. Everybody's welcome at that. Tomorrow evening at 7 p.m., right across the hall in the Moscovitz Theater, Matt Harper from the Los Angeles Catholic Worker will be here. Matt is also a product of Jesuit education, so he's going to talk about what Jesuit education has meant to him, how it has got him to really participating and performing the corporal works of mercy. So that'll be a great event. And then on Friday afternoon at 1:30, from 1:30 to 3:30 in the Rose Garden next to the Chapel of the Sacred Heart will be our Get the Jesuit Scoop. So it's sort of our witty effort there, but there'll be free ice cream. That's the bottom line. So please join us for that. And then the whole list of events for the remainder of the week is available on the website. So you're more than welcome to join us for any and all of these events. But this is really, as I think you might agree, one of the highlights of the week to have Father Bernie Mclhenny with us. Obviously, he is, I would guess, the longest tenured person associated with the university at this point. And we're going to talk in a few minutes about Father Mac's life in the Jesuits, but you should know that this is a jubilee year for him. He's celebrating 80 years in the Society of Jesus. So really and you may know, I realize this is one last note before we begin. If you were to Google St. Ignatius, it will actually tell you that his birthday was October 23rd, 1491. Now, we don't know that. We know that he was born sometime before October 23rd, 1491, but for the purposes of this event being held on October 23rd, we can consider this kind of like an Ignatian birthday celebration. So anyway, it's great to be celebrating with all of you our heritage, and so grateful for all the Jesuits, a number of whom are present here today and have been present at events throughout the week. So we're very grateful to the Jesuits of this university community, and grateful to all of you, because all of us are co-workers with the Jesuits, carrying on this mission that we hold as a treasure, no matter what we do here at the university. So very grateful. I'm very grateful to be a part of that with all of you, and especially grateful today to share the stage with Father Mac. So the format for today's event is I just have a few questions that I'm going to pose to Father Mac, and he'll answer them. And then after that, we'll have plenty of time for Q&A. So Bryn has a microphone. So if anybody has a question for Father Mac, we'll have plenty of opportunity to to answer those. So I just figured we might start with the very basics. So Father Mac, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about where you're from originally, your upbringing, your family life, and where you met the Jesuits. How did you sort of feel your call to be a Jesuit?
Well, we'll certainly try that. Can you hear me all right? The first thing I would say, the last time or the first time I've been up on the stage right here was the day they dedicated this room here. So it's nice to return here. The second thing, I see my grounds crew people here, and I always wanted to know the grounds crew, because if you wanted to know what was going on at the university, got the grounds crew. They'll know the story.
Yep.
And there's three of them that we still go out to dinner 3 times or 4 times a year. Tim O'Connor, Val, and Joe Ostrowski there. So they're very special. So how about I start just with ticking off a few of the years. I'm 98 years old, as you know, okay? So I'm 80 years in the society since we started. 66 years here in Scranton. Scranton is very dear to me. I want you to know that. And I love the people here. I love all these years that I've been here with them. They're very special people to me. I had a lot of chances to go here or there, or what have you. I wanted none of that. Stay right where you are. And that's exactly where I've been. 31 years right here at the University of Scranton. 8 years at Scranton Prep, where I was headmaster. I was a fellow that moved it there. 15 years as the minister of the community. I came here, I was 32 years of age. And 71 years, I retired. So that'll give you a little bit by the numbers. But where am I from? I'm from Philadelphia, inner city Philadelphia, not out in the suburbs there with him. When I grew up, it was very tough times there with it. You were right during the Depression. There were all sorts of problems going on as far as that's concerned. My father, he was a plasterer. He had his own little business there with him. My mother, and he didn't have any schooling other than maybe grammar school, my father. My mother had grammar school, and when she was about 14, her mother died. So she took over the running of the house there. That was the end of her education. But God loved them. The two of them wanted nothing more than their children to have a good chance in life, a good education. And I had 2 sisters. The oldest one only lived 4 days. She died during the Spanish flu. My sister, Mary, she was 4 years older than I am. And they used to always say she had the vocation because she'd always cart me to church and so forth when I was a little kid there with it. But it was very true. She was wonderful, and we always remained close. She went on, had her own career. She went to Chestnut Hill there, and then to Ladies' Home Journal and a few other places. Ended up with a little Mary Mac show out in Louisville. Married her husband, ended up out in California. So it made my mother and dad very happy to see that we both had educations there with him. When I told my mother I was going to enter the order, she said, "Oh," I thought she'd be real happy, with it. I found out later she wanted me to be a doctor, my son the doctor, But she had that because 2 of her grandchildren were both doctors, one in California, one in Houston. So enough about a little background and what we are. How about the neighborhood was really a tough one. If you know Philly, you know near Temple University, for example, in those areas. So you just didn't walk around there loosely. All right, so as far as the parish, I was very fortunate to be in a Jesuit parish, the Jesu. So from the time I was a little kid, that's all we knew were the Jesuits. And they were very good to us. And in those times, you know, people needed help. And it was very much a question of people helping people. And that was very true with the Jesuits, like with myself, seeing I got a good education there within to make sure I would get to St. Joe's Prep. And the same with my sister when she went to Chestnut Hill. Why did she get into Chestnut Hill with a scholarship? Very simple, because the president and my mother had grown up together and knew each other. So people helping people. It was very important there with them. But as we moved on, you know, and went to the prep, I'm just going to stop at one year there within 1942. Now, Pearl Harbor, Second World War, all going on and so forth. But in 22, or 42, I should say here with it, myself, I'm working on this idea, should I be a priest, you know? And at the same time, two separate tracks here, you have a group came in, a couple of Jesuits, to look over the place here, and that was the old University of Scranton, or St. Thomas College. But the Christian Brothers changed it to the University of Scranton, not the Jesuits. So they come in because the Christian Brothers were having trouble. They students, money, everything else. They were moving out. So the two men that come in, the two Jesuits, looked the whole thing over. Yes, we'd go. However, the old place was right down next to the cathedral. That was the university. The old main building right next to it. It's just a big historic marker there now. So it was a big, you know, as soon as I looked at it, what's the future? You can't build down there where what are you going to do, you know? Well, at that time also, the question of the estate. So that we had at least a base there. So they said, fine, we'll go with the base and then expand out from that. And God love them, looking here today, that's exactly what they did, using that as a base. So what is very pretty as a nice campus, and a beautiful campus here. Today, when you look at it, you know, it was very different than then. You look at our nice science building, for example, that was a truck transfer, big tractor trailers moving in and out and so forth there. Where we have our nice cause and, you know, flags and what have you, that was a gas station. They looked up the street there, that was a juvenile home. So this is what we looked at, and not we now, but them, they looked at in that time. So it was very beautiful. You talk about helping each other throughout the different Jesuit places. They picked the estate, so they had them knock down walls and so forth in there to make some place for the Jesuits to live. There were 20 of them that came at that time, and that's what they did, of course. So the other places in the, you know, the society, like they needed, you know, silverware. They needed beds. They needed this. So all the different places helped us, contributed, and that's the way we could make a go of it there. So that'll bring us at least where you are now in terms of the university itself. Now let's move on to me now. What am I going to do? Well, my troubles were very simple. You know, when I was at St. Joe's Prep, that's when I went back to that 1942 there, because 1942, I'm a senior in high school. I'm looking at what I want to do, and it was a couple things. Myself, West Point, I did not want to be a draft dodger, all those things. So this was a real decision on my part with him, because in those days, our little street there, with that Harlan Street, you'd see all the silver and gold stars in the window. Somebody was killed in the war and so forth. So for me to think about being a priest at that time. So who did I talk to? I talked to Billy Ferguson, not a Jesuit, but Billy Ferguson, who was the old coach of St. Joe's University. And he had the Mighty Mites and all those. He was quite famous with it. He was vice president of beneficial savings, but he also taught me mathematics. And I trusted him very much. So Billy and I had a nice talk, and he straightened me out very quickly. I didn't want to go to a Jesuit for that reason. And he was wonderful that way. So he said, no, you're talking about a lifetime, not being in the service for X number of days, or years, whatever. So he was the one that really straightened me out. So off to Wernersville I went. I made the decision. And that's when it all started in 1944. I had 1 year or 1 semester of college. And that's when my years there in the society started. Now, we were slow learners. And that's why it took me 14 years to be a Jesuit. And I used to always say, slow learners. That's it. And so first 4 years, very simple. Learn how to pray. You started a 30-day retreat in silence and so forth. And you did some of your other work there. They had you out digging ditches, and Lord knows what we did there. And then it came time for next level. That was your philosophy studies. You got your master's degree and so forth in the process. They shipped me out to Indiana to a wonderful place there, and that helped very much there. West Baden College, it was called. It was a seminary part of Loyola University in Chicago. So that's where my degrees are from. And then from there, we moved to Washington, D.C., where one of the requirements you have to teach for 3 years. So we taught for 3 years at Gonzaga High School, which was a wonderful high school. Taught me an awful lot there with them. And then came back to Woodstock, got my theology, was ordained 30 years. Well, I was 30 years old when I was ordained. And a lot different, and we talked about it before, just the numbers. At my class, now my ordination class, we're 54, and that being ordained. These were from the Maryland province, New York province, a couple other provinces in there, but also some from overseas. So seeing that number and what they did, very interesting people too. Avery Dulles was in my class. Avery's dad was the Secretary of State, John Foster Dulles, at those years down there under Eisenhower there with him. You had others like Fitzpatrick Field here. He was a tail gunner there on the bombers during the Second World War. People like that you saw, in your class, really inspired you and led you on to other things with it, so it was important. So then my first job after tertianship was Scranton, Pennsylvania. Remember what I said back in 1942 there? But or 42, I'll get it straight. And the first job there, and honestly, you didn't get any nice letter or anything else with it. They just a list of who's in your class, your name, where you're going, what you're going to do. And that was it. So the Mclhenny, Scranton Prep School, headmaster. Well, you thought you'd get some nice letter or something, No, that was it. It was up to you. That was in June. That was up to you to find your way to Scranton Prep. And in those days, you just had your trunk. That was all your belongings to get that shipped there, too. So, boom, 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 off to Scranton we came. And I can still remember my first look at Scranton Prep. It was going to Wyoming and Mulberry, right on the corner. And I could have cried. I really could. It was terrible. It was a 3-story building. The top 2 had burned off. House of ill repute right next door over here. Over this side, we had the laundry belching this smoke out, diesel smoke. Oh, God, it's awful. So I said, oh, my Lord, what are we going to do here? And so I said, I prayed, of course. You'll laugh there. I prayed. But it was a matter of a couple of years, 61, that the answer came. They're going to widen Mulberry Street right through my school, and what are we going to do from there? Well, over here, the university, the old main building, which was the university, they're moving up now to their new building there, St. Thomas Hall. And we're looking over at the other thing, how are we going to exist there? Because that wasn't a high school at all, so you had to make all sorts of adjustments when you did that. So we did that and got that underway. And then next thing, where are we going to move? We couldn't exist there, the rest of our life. So that was a place where 1000 Wyoming Avenue now. That was the International Correspondence School. And they thought, fine, that'll be $750,000. We don't have $750,000. So what did we do? We let it go for a while. They thought they were going to make a quick killing, with it, and they didn't. And they had a 10-year lease here to Prudential Insurance. So long story short, we came back to them after I had my committee of fathers. We had looked over about 30 different properties, up the line, down the line, the whole thing. Ended up right there, where we won it in the first place. And they came down to $250,000. So that's how we were able to make that move, which we did. And that really was the thing that saved the school. And as I always say, it's accidental things like that that really make a difference, in no two ways. So that'll sort of bring you up to date about what we've done and so forth, Wernersville and the different things, the school, so, and my first job there. So maybe some things you want to move in, and then I'll talk about becoming Dean of Admissions here.
As I correctly predicted beforehand, there's very little need for me on this stage today. I don't know about you, but I could listen to this guy talk for hours about the history of this place. This is fantastic. Maybe I'll just ask one last question looking ahead, and then we'll open it up to your questions. Just what do you think, Father Mac, is the future of Jesuit higher education? And maybe if you have a word of advice or encouragement for us as university employees, that would be great.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I always look at the things as what's driving the engine. And obviously, students drive the engine there with it. But that engine, who drives the engine, with it, who's that going to be? And there it's a question of numbers. Remember I said back looking at our ordination class, looking at the numbers that we had in school, and you look at the numbers now that are coming in, or looking at the school, or whatever, they're looking at the order, all the different sides to it. And looking there, you're looking, maybe 5 students, 5 applicants, 5 people coming in. Now, how does that project out to all these different colleges and so forth? As far as Jesuits in college, I mean, it's just sheer mathematics there with it, as what's going to happen there with it. We're very fortunate here in having both our presidents here and also the prep school with that. So the future in higher ed is going to be limited, certainly. So it's going to take a lot of arrangement. What should we do? I mean, we're certainly not going to be opening new schools and so forth. So are they going to put schools together, organized that way. There's no real direct answer to the question because we don't know what's coming in that way. But if we're just looking at what's been going on, it's not good. So that's why it's very important, I think, for yourselves to have a good sense of what Jesuit education is all about. So how helpful it's going to be or what have you, you are the ones, if you're going to keep this as a Jesuit school, Jesuit and its whole identity without Jesuits, that's going to be your real test here. All those things a person for others, looking for God in all things, all of the things that were important to Ignatius were so important here and carry out in your ordinary day. And that's questions for each one of you in your job that you do. How can you bring those things out yourselves now with that? How can you bring that out in your students? You know, they're all the questions I think that you're going to see there with it. No question there. True. Right.
Great.
Does that help you or what?
Yes.
Okay.
Questions from folks out there?
Hi, Father Mac.
Good to see you again.
Can you hear me? So those of us who did work with you always respected your leadership. So what advice would you have for the new administration as far as leading us into the future and leading a team?
Good. And that's certainly a good question because that's exactly what you're in as you're looking ahead with it. I think the one thing, look at your, not just a job here, but something here, you know, for yourselves, something you can really take pride in. And it's something you're going to do your best in. So it's just not that type where it's nothing. I would look for certainly loyalty in a person here. Loyalty to what you're trying to do, all you're doing as a group. And not loyalty just in the nice words here, but what you do, the way you act to it. All those things I think are very important in that and make it. Another thing, I think the university has always been known as a family school. And I always think back, you know, to interviewing kids and parents, you know, what would be one of the first things they pick up? And they would tell her, this is one I said, but these are things I'd tell them. The students would hold the door for them when they were going through the school or looking at the school. Things people pick up. So something you take real pride in, what you do in the school, what you have to offer, real pride in that. And real pride in yourself, that you're not just a job now, but they're part of this family and what you're going to contribute to. So all those things, I think, are very important to you as you look ahead. So as much as you can embody things you take for granted here, looking ahead, do that. Because it certainly, and it shows very quickly. It shows very quickly. True. Honestly, this is fun. It brings back, I keep looking at these guys in the shirts here. What they did, they were so much important part of things. But that's it. I mean, no matter what your job is, and they were always great at that. They took great pride in the school. The very first time we opened with a open house, who were the ones really, the faculty and so forth, many of them had all sorts of questions, maybe about did we get lunch and things like that. But how can we make this look better? And that's exactly what you did with them. And you were great, honestly, with that. And we had all these involved meetings and so forth, but it all boiled down to that. And the place always looked great. Tim O'Connor, he was wonderful.
Other questions, please.
Anything else? No.
Father Mac, my husband would kill me if I don't ask you this question, but can you tell us about your love of golf?
Your love of golf.
Your love of
Love of
golf.
golf.
And have you ever had
Well,
a
I'll
hole in
tell you,
one?
And have you had a hole in one?
I have a picture of it. It was that close.
Ooh. There's still time. There's still time.
Oh, I still play,
Yeah.
sure, yeah. We won our little division there the other day. We got a nice trophy there. That was good. But honestly, where I learned to play golf, and you'll laugh at this, was out in Indiana. Remember I mentioned we went out there for my philosophy? Well, we had, again, a golf course, 2 golf courses, out of ourselves. But it was during the bad times, for $1, we got this whole thing there, West Baden Springs. And West Baden Springs, and it was in the old days, the poor people with a drink problem, they'd ship down from Chicago down to this place because they had the Fluter water, which would wash them out with them. But we kept one of the golf courses, and 2 of my buddies here, Eddie Maloney and Jack Alexander, were both in my class. They were a year ahead of me. They were from New York, good guys. But anyway, good athletes and what have you. The one now, Eddie Maloney, he belonged at the good New York one there with it. And he took me out, and he said the whole thing, what to go through. Well, I did fine the first hole till I hit the Greyhound bus that was coming along. And one of my errant shots came over here. Oh, that was it, but that's what I learned. So,
Maybe one.
anything else? No, please. Right over here.
Hi, Father. I'm not sure of your timeline at the university relative to Scranton Prep, but I'm wondering if you could speak about the university becoming co-ed.
I didn't quite hear you.
Can you talk a little bit about the university becoming co-ed?
Becoming co-ed, one of the best things we ever did. That was at that time, all sorts of demonstrations were going on, the Vietnam War, the Second Vatican Council, everything was upset in flux. So that was just one of the things that was bouncing around up there. But most of the colleges at that time were becoming co-ed. So it was something I was so much in favor of. But you had those who were questioning it, and not. So you'll laugh, we had already sent or had our books printed, that we come out to the schools and stuff we send there with them. And we had to reprint it co-ed in '72 to get that out in all of them. So we went to work on that. Just a word on recruiting. At that time, remember, again, with the school, what it was physically, but looking at it in terms of your students, what did you have there? Maybe 600 or 360, something like that. And they were practically all local students. So I was fortunate enough to go to Harvard for this program they had for admissions people. And they put it out straight. Not that you learned anything about Harvard the way their students, they're in a different class. But the things they brought out, number one, it was no longer going to be a seller's market where you sat back and the people came to you. It was going to be a buyer's market. So you had to get out there, and what made you different than the bunch down the street? And the same thing there. And always we felt we were at disadvantage when we were all boys there and no girls there with it, at this point of things there with it. So that's where it came in to be. And it was something I was just thrilled about having, with it. And then it was a question of selling some people here on campus, the idea of women on campus with them. So I had to get out, things like new majors, like your nursing, your PT, your OT, all those things that were important to them. I can remember Father Byron and myself having to go down to Harrisburg for the nursing, because we had to present ourselves there and prove that we needed the nursing. And we had quite a time with them. They weren't nice, but we got what we wanted because I had all the statistics and so forth. So it's those programs like that that are so important today. True. How about anything else?
Another question?
Okay, I have a hard question. What is your favorite Bible passage?
Your favorite Bible passage?
But my Bible, love God and love your neighbor. That's my, that's in there a couple times in many different ways. But to me, that's what our whole life is all about. Love God and love your neighbor. You don't have to get into a lot of theological and complicated things there, but then do those things and you're in good shape.
Well, to me, that seems like a great place to end. And, you know, and if I'm thinking about a theme that has run throughout the course of this conversation.
That's the way I feel it is, very honestly.
Yeah, and the way that you've manifested it is by helping people. You started by talking about your mother getting, and your sister getting a scholarship, people helping people. The founder of your order, Father Mac, talked about the Jesuits and the importance of the Jesuits of helping souls. And I dare say that few people, if any, in the history of this university have helped more souls than you. So on behalf of everybody in this room and people not here, thank you so much for 80 years, and here's to 80 more.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, good. Thank you.
Thanks so much.